Traffic safety continues to be a major concern for many Barrie residents, particularly in South Barrie, near Mapleview Drive, an area surrounded by big box stores like Costco and several industrial zones. Barrie resident and former police officer David Hembruff urged City Council to install a four-way stop at the intersection of Country Lane and Madelaine Drive. Hembruff, who has served as an expert witness in Ontario courts for traffic regulation and enforcement, told Simcoe Community Media that the street has effectively become a NASCAR track.
And Madelaine has become, the neighbors call it NASCAR. We sit out in our driveway with a cup of tea and say, let's watch NASCAR, because that's what it is, a racing match. And repeatedly the town has been advised of the accidents. Mayor Nuttall, when he was running for election, knocked on everybody's door and promised he would address this. Hopefully now he is, but up until now nothing's got done. So that's why we put a motion forward to deal with this. And I wanted to come and speak to it because 30 years of policeman, you see some traffic situations. And this could be solved simply. One stop sign, four-way, but they don't listen. They're going to review the road diet situation. A road diet takes 4 lanes, makes it down to 2 with a center turn lane. Well, from my experience, the problem being that these young people, a lot of them are young people, in their Hondas and souped up cars, would use that center lane as a way to pass anyways. It wouldn't solve anything. They'll time the light and now they'll squeeze down to 2 lanes. So what do you do if you're in a car beside another guy and there's 2 lanes, one each way? You speed up. That won't solve the problem. What will solve the problem is a 4-way stop and more police enforcement. Not on a regular basis, the police are busy, but we need to show. So they just put in a speed camera, okay, at Madeline Drive and Dean. Did they point it up and down Madelaine? No. They pointed it eastbound on Dean where there's no traffic. So right now, there is a speed camera, not on Madelaine. They sat it pointing down a street where there's no traffic. It eludes common sense, you know.
Hembruff opposed the road diet, arguing it would only intensify the speeding and reckless driving, and again emphasized that a 4-way stop would be simpler and more effective. Mayor Alex Nuttall blamed poor city planning and rapid urban growth for the issue, noting that Madeline Drive has unintentionally become an arterial road despite being designed as a residential street. He stressed the need for a long-term safety solution and expressed openness to alternatives beyond the proposed road diet, including stop signs and multiple traffic lights.
If you're going down Mapleview Drive, and let's say you're going to Zares or to the LCBO, which I clearly have never been to, when you're going there, normally in other cities, I would see there would be like an arterial route with a higher speed limit, and it would get you from A to B. In Barrie, everything's the same. And it creates these arterials on local residential streets. We've talked about this a number of times that are really difficult to deal with. And Hearst Drive is just a brutal street. Madelaine is another brutal street. I would actually say that Madelaine is worse because of the proximity to schools. And Hearst is a little bit further away from schools. So I don't know what the answer is. For me, I think Mapleview Drive probably needs to go quicker. We need to define what the arterial roads are in the city and provide those laneways for folks to get around the city. And then we need to reduce the speed limits on the roads that are local residential streets. And we need to stop producing streets that have 4 lanes and houses on them.
After a lengthy discussion, Council voted to refer the proposed road diet back to staff for further review and to explore better alternatives. The following are our interview with David Hembruff and highlights from the Council deliberations.
I'm a retired police officer. I was a police officer for 30 years. I live on this street, Madeline Drive. And when Barrie received the annexed lands from Innisfil, which are on the south side of Mapleview at intersecting with Madeline Drive. Madeline Drive goes north from Mapleview through basically 3 school areas. It was designed as a residential street. But when the annexed lands came along, the street suddenly became a main artery. People, for lack of saying they're lazy, don't want to drive up Yonge Street, which is another quarter of a kilometer. They take the residential street of Madelaine and at high speeds travel all the way up to Big Bay Point between Madelaine, Mapleview, up Madelaine from Mapleview to Big Bay Point. That's a full kilometer. That speed is not regulated there. They put, there was a previous stop sign in at the intersection of Esther and Madelaine, and the city decided to take that out. Well, when they took that out and put in traffic lights right by the school, speeding cars use the pedestrian countdown as a signal to speed up faster to beat the light. They can see I've got 7 seconds, 5 seconds, 4 seconds, and so it increases the speed exponentially to maybe triple the speed limit. There's been 12 accidents at the intersection of Country Lane and Madelaine in 2 years. Some of them indicating personal injury, some fail to remains, pushing one car into the greenbelt. But 12 accidents at one intersection in 2 years is uncalled for. It could be regulated very, very simply by a four-way stop. But the city feels that putting a four-way stop in, the answer they gave us was there would be too much exhaust. Well, when you stop at a light, there's a lot of exhaust, right? So that answer didn't flow. So we have hundreds of new cars going up Madeline Drive to Big Bay Point with an unregulated situation past 3 school zones. And so the residents are up in arms about the speed. The city suggests a road diet, taking a 4-lane road down to 2 lanes, which in my opinion will just increase the problem because now people will squeeze into a smaller area. If they had a simple stop sign, it's cost effective. As a police officer for 30 years, stop signs work. And Madelaine has become, the neighbors call it NASCAR. We sit out in our driveway with a cup of tea and say, let's watch NASCAR, because that's what it is, a racing match. And repeatedly, the town has been advised of the accidents. Mayor Nuttall, when he was running for election, knocked on everybody's door and promised he would address this. Hopefully now he is, but up until now, nothing's got done. So that's why we put a motion forward to deal with this. And I wanted to come and speak to it because 30 years as a policeman, you see some traffic situations. And this could be solved simply. 1 stop sign, 4-way, but they don't listen. They're going to review the road diet situation. A road diet takes 4 lanes, makes it down to 2 with a center turn lane. Well, from my experience, the problem being that these young people, a lot of them are young people, in their Hondas and souped up cars, would use that center lane as a way to pass anyways. It wouldn't solve anything. They'll time the light and now they'll squeeze down to 2 lanes. So what do you do if you're in a car beside another guy and there's 2 lanes, 1 each way? You speed up. That won't solve the problem. What will solve the problem is a 4-way stop and more police enforcement. Not on a regular basis, the police are busy, but we need to show. So they just put in a speed camera, okay, at Madeline Drive and Dean. Did they point it up and down Madelaine? No. They pointed it eastbound on Dean where there's no traffic. So right now, there is a speed camera, not on Madelaine. They sat it pointing down a street where there's no traffic. It eludes common sense, you know.
And we have one deputation from David Hembruff on behalf of the residents of Madeline Drive concerning 25G115 Madeline Drive Road Diet, Mapleview Drive to Yonge Street in Ward 9. And I'd like to call upon Mr. Hembruff to come to the podium at this point to make the presentation. Sir, in accordance with the procedural bylaw, we have about 5 minutes. If you run through that, I unfortunately have to cut you off, and it's not because I'm a mean person. It's just the rules.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Thank you, council and student mayors. And it's a pleasure to be here this evening to address this very briefly. As my wife will tell you, I'm not an expert in a lot of fields, but I have been designated as an expert witness in the courts of Ontario for the purposes of traffic regulation and regulating traffic. I was an Ontario police officer for 30 years and live on the subject street of Madeline Drive. There's 3 schools associated with Madeline Drive, the French school, the high school at Big Bay Point and Mapleview, which intersects with Madelaine, and the Mapleview Heights Public School, elementary school in the vicinity of Esther and Madelaine. 2 things have increased the traffic and speed on Madeline Drive in recent years. I have been a resident there on Madelaine for some 13 years and watched the problem evolve. The first thing was we had a 4-way stop at Madeline Drive and Esther, and that was removed and replaced with traffic signals. And unfortunately, speeding people watch the pedestrian countdown at the crosswalk and use that as a gauge to increase their speed to beat the light. So when the traffic lights were put in, actually it increased the problem for speeding on Madeline Drive. The second area of concern is that when we received the annexed land from Innisfil on the south end of Madeline Drive at Madelaine, the volume of traffic increased exponentially. There's an estimated 500 to 1,000 cars now in that subdivision, which come north on Madeline Drive to do their shopping and visitations at the liquor store. So those 2 areas are the main concern of volume, which has increased the speed exponentially. If people would obey the speed rules, we wouldn't have this problem. In the last 2 years, I have personally attested to 12 motor vehicle accidents at the intersection of Country Lane and Madelaine. I have videos to substantiate that because I live right at that location. One such speeding car went across my property, smashed into the car beside me, and pushed it into the greenbelt. It did substantial damage and personal injury, and then the driver fled the scene. This is an ongoing problem on Madelaine, and the mayor has been very good to personally contact me in the past with an attempt to address that. My situation is that I've spoken to many people, and they're all concerned about the new diet situation that's coming to be. My opinion and expert opinion is that although that may be helpful, if there was a 4-way stop at the intersection of Country Lane and Madeline Drive, it would in fact go a long way to stopping the speeding on the street. Another light at Country Lane, they'll just be timed out between that and the Esther light. Unfortunately, these people watch the crosswalk countdowns, and they use that as a gauge to beat the light, right? So the speeding is really horrendous on that street. If council decides to go ahead with the diet situation, which is much more expensive than a 4-way stop sign, I would suggest that no parking be allowed on Madeline Drive for the simple reason that now you'll have 1 lane northbound, 1 lane southbound, and they will speed up to pass parked cars in the extra areas where they're parked on the northbound and the southbound. I've seen daily cars speed up the race to beat a parked car right now, and they have the 4 lanes. Well, if they only have 2 lanes and they're speeding up to do that, it's going to be a nightmare. There's children, as I said, there's 3 schools affected by this area, and they go up and down this street at great peril. I have grandchildren that in the past that lived with me, and it was in great peril to go up and down that street. So if we go ahead with the diet thing, it's more expensive than the 4-way stop at Country Lane. We can't change the lights at Esther because they're already in place, but in fact, that would cause them to have to stop. Now, there was some study done in the past where there was too much exhaust if people stop at stop signs, but there's stop signs all over the city that are effective. The cost for a diet lane is much more substantial than the cost for a 4-way stop. So I'll leave it in the good hands of you people to decide, but as a resident there, the traffic volume because of the annexed lands is now horrendous. The speeding has increased exponentially, and on the 2 times the police have been good enough to come to that location and work radar, they actually sat in my driveway with.
Sorry, sir. I apologize that the 5 minutes is up, but if you just hold for 1 second, is there any questions that members of council have? Yes, Councillor Kungle.
Can you comment on the findings of police that sat in your driveway, sir?
They said
Read
they
my
rec-
mind.
Oh my goodness, that gives me another minute. They said they received the highest violation fines that they had for a residential area while they've been working radar in Barrie. There's no radar in Barrie in the evenings, and there's no police enforcement for radar on the weekends.
Now be circulated and adopted. Sorry.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson. It's seconded by Councilor Morales. Section A of the first General Committee report dated May 7th, 2025, now circulated to be adopted. This is 25G087, potential acquisition of property matter, post-secondary institution. Any questions or comments from members of council? Seeing none, all those in favor? It carries. Deputy Mayor.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Morales. Section B of the first General Committee report dated May 7th, 2025, now circulated, be received.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councilor Morales. Section B of the first General Committee report dated May 7th, 2025, now circulated to be received. 25G088, presentation concerning confidential personal information matter, committee appointments. 25G089, confidential position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board. Intergovernmental affairs update. Any questions or concerns with regarding to the motion? I'm seeing none. All those in favor? And that carries. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Morales, that Section C of the first General Committee report dated May 7th, 2025, now circulated, be adopted.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councilor Morales, that Section C of the first General Committee report dated May 7th, 2025, now circulated, be adopted. This is 25G090, personal information matter, committee appointments. Any questions or concerns from members of council? I'm seeing Councilor Morales.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. They're bundled together, but I'll speak to 25-G-115 Madeline Drive Road Diet. This street, I'll tell you.
Sorry, Councilor, we're not there yet. That'll be in the second General Committee report. We're in the first one.
We're in the first. Okay.
I apologize. Just
I have to refresh.
It'll be like 2 minutes and you're
yeah,
up.
no worries.
So this is on the actual committee appointments. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? It carries.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Morales, that Section A of the second General Committee report dated May 7th, now circulated, be received.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councilor Morales, to Section A of the second General Committee report dated May 7th, 2025, now circulated to be received. This is 25G092, report of the Affordability Committee dated April 16th, 2025. 25G093, report of the Infrastructure and Community Investment Committee dated April 30th, 2025. 25G094, report of the Finance and Responsible Governments Committee dated April 30th, 2025. 25G095, report of the Affordability Committee dated April 30th, 2025. Any questions or comments on those reports? I'm seeing none. All those in favor? It carries. Deputy Mayor.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Morales, that Section B of the second General Committee report dated May 7, 2025, now circulated, be adopted.
It is moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councilor Morales, to Section B of the second General Committee report dated the 7th of May, 2025, now circulated, be adopted. And I'm just going to go through. So the referral by General Committee on February 26th regarding the funding request for Bayview Park, committee name change, the adult entertainment bylaw with regards to burlesque, community project submissions from many councillors, there's about 10 of them. Do we need to go through them one by one, council? I think we've done that twice already, but okay. There is included in this the deferral of the conservation of Built Heritage Community Improvement Plan. There's the St. Vincent Street Road Diet, Blake to Codrington. There's the Madelaine Road Diet, Mapleview to Young. And there's a funding request for Allendale downtown transit hubs and Allendale Historic Train Station. There's also the Downtown Barrie Business Improvement Area levy for Ward 2. Are there any questions or comments with regards to, I'm going to go to Councillor Morales first because you did have your hand up first, literally. So over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. So for Madeline Drive Road Diet, Mayor Nuttall, I'll tell you, this street is quite something. You know it through your parent, through your father. The residents of Madelaine know it through the reality of the street. The only one I can really think of that has this, it's not just the width, it's not just the single detached homes, it's the curvature and the grade change. Livingston Street West between Ferndale and Ann Street is probably the closest I can get to of a comparison, and even then, not that it's a contest to see which one's worse, but this is really problematic. Members of Council, Mayor Nuttall, as you'll recall from the deputation, the comments that not the deputation, but the comments that I read from the residents last week, some were in favor of lights. Some were passively supportive, meaning, one of the letters I believe said, we know that the raised intersection is coming, and so that hopefully should work. So I'll call that a passive support. There's support for stop signs and not stoplights. There's supports for road diet with parking bans, with no parking bans. Both exist, by the way. I believe, Councillor Corser, the street I just referenced in your ward does not have a parking ban, and neither does Mapleton, but Hurst Drive in Ward 10 does. So there's many flavors of ways of doing this, and I just wanted to hold this item because I know, Mayor Nuttall, yourself and I attended on the weekend and talked to some residents. Obviously, we couldn't talk to everybody, but this one is quite the situation. I may have a question for staff if you want to make some comments, even going from yours, but you're going to go to Councillor Corser? Okay, I'll leave it there for now. Oh, we're at council, so no. I have to say it now. To Ms. Banfield, why are we specifically asking for the approval because of Bill 212? Is it because we're taking away a driving lane? I thought it was taking away a driving lane to create a bike lane, but we're not creating bike lanes. It doesn't matter. It's just taking away a driving lane. Is Bill 212? Quick confirmation.
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Morales. That's correct.
Okay, perfect. I'll look forward to my colleagues' questions and comments on that, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Councillor Morales. I'll go to Councillor Corser.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. I actually was not going to comment on that. I had something to speak to a different item.
Yeah, just so, can I explain just to the public? You're going to hear multiple things talked about at the same time because these are all the things that have been approved at the general committee meeting before. So this is not on the road diet on Madelaine. Over to you, Councillor Corser.
No, something a little more mundane, I guess. I was just wondering about the change of committee name from, and now I can't find it because everything's kind of mixed up here, from active transportation and sustainability to simply sustainability. Oh, is it deferred?
Councillor, I think that was deferred. So in order for the question to be in order for me, it would need to be as to the deferral motion, which is the motion, not the name change itself.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, just carry on. I'll save my questions for later.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments with regards to the items on the floor? Councillor Kungle.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. And just a quick comment, because I know we ran through them quickly, but a point of clarification on 25G113. This is the deferral at General Committee on the Conservation of Built Heritage Community Improvement Plan. Just to clarify that we're not yet deferring it again. It had been deferred. We're now approving it as amended. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Any other questions or comments? Yeah, student mayors, if you're not confused right now, then we're not doing our job right, because we are. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Madeline Drive, to what Councillor Morales was speaking to. And, you know, there's an issue with the way that Barrie was designed. And the issue is that we either turned local residential streets into arterials, or we turned arterials into local residential streets. And these things are combative in nature in the sense that, you know, arterial roads try to move mass amounts of vehicles from A to B, and residential streets are the places that you go home to. And it doesn't matter if you're on Hearst, on Prince William Way, on Sandringham, Ward 10, on Madelaine, on Dean, Livingston, I heard, Cundles at places. Like there's Hanmer's, another one that's turned into an arterial at points, even though it's maybe not categorized that way. The city was not, in my opinion, planned out well when it came to how we were going to get people to move from A to B. In the Madelaine example, because it's the one we're talking about tonight, if you're going down Mapleview Drive, and let's say you're going to Zares or to the LCBO, which I clearly have never been to, when you're going there, normally in other cities, I would see there would be like an arterial route with a higher speed limit, and it would get you from A to B. In Barrie, everything's the same. And it creates these arterials on local residential streets. We've talked about this a number of times that are really difficult to deal with. And Hearst Drive is just a brutal street. Madelaine is another brutal street. I would actually say that Madelaine is worse because of the proximity to schools. And Hearst is a little bit further away from schools. So I don't know what the answer is. For me, I think Mapleview Drive probably needs to go quicker. We need to define what the arterial roads are in the city and provide those laneways for folks to get around the city. And then we need to reduce the speed limits on the roads that are local residential streets. And we need to stop producing streets that have 4 lanes and houses on them. It just doesn't make sense. Trying to back out of a driveway while somebody's trying to use it as an arterial street doesn't make sense. Even the side streets that we visit on the weekend, and the side streets when you're in these areas, like when the complaints are going 5 doors down, right? And they're not even on the main part of the track, like that's an issue. That's showing how widespread the issue is. So there's a intersection raise going in. There's road dieting being looked at. I'm sure we'll get a letter back from the Minister of Transportation saying, please confirm why you're reducing lanes, and we'll properly articulate back the why. But we've got to still have to figure this out. And the problem that we're told, and I am not an expert, sir, as you know, on this subject. The problem that we have with the stop signs is that we are told not to put them in unless the standards are hit from the side streets. And that's the first issue. The second issue is, and I'm not sure what the last study was, I'm assuming it didn't meet the criteria. That's okay, so I'm being told yes. And the second issue is that children assume everybody's going to follow the rules like they do. And adults don't do that. And the movement of people across Madelaine, or Hearst, we just put an IPS over there, which is like a push the button and then you can cross the street. If the kids think you're going to stop and the drivers are used to not stopping, the result is potentially a very bad situation. Those are the 2 reasons we're told not to put stop signs in as a traffic speed reduction tool. So we're in a bit of a difficult place because it hasn't worked to date in terms of what's happening on Madelaine. The traffic counts are going way up. There would be, you said 500 to 1,000 homes. I think it's probably way in excess of that when this thing's built out. And it's being used as an arterial. So I'm open, this is my position, I'm open to all ideas here. Maybe a stop sign attached to a raised intersection is safer than just a stop sign by itself. maybe multiple traffic lights, and I did hear you say I don't want a traffic light because you don't think that'll work, but I'm just all options on the table. Maybe it's multiple traffic lights. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm guessing that just the road dieting is still not going to work, because it didn't. Just the road dieting also didn't work on Hearst Drive. It helped a bit, but taking the vehicles from 70 kilometers an hour to 66 is not really what we're trying to achieve. So I'll leave it at that. I think that we have more work to do, Councilor Morales, on this, and perhaps we need to assess these different roads around the city that are experiencing these same problems. They are experiencing very, very similar problems, and when we come back with an idea, let's try to pilot out different things. That was the whole goal of the raised intersection. Let's try something that we aren't really doing right now that I found slowed me down when I'm in other cities, and go from there. But I think that the first step is to deal with this tonight and move forward. You're going to get complaints about parking on Madeline Drive. I know that. I think we all know that. There'll be complaints about parking on the side streets because there won't be any on Madeline Drive. There's going to be pressures that will be created by the changes, but we got to keep finding a way to make it safe on some of these difficult streets. So I'm going to stop there because I can probably go on for another hour about traffic safety in these roads, and go back. Is there any other comments before we move on? The whole thing is one matter, so you've already spoken to it. Yes.
Quick point of order,
Yes.
Mayor Nuttall. Parking is being maintained on Madelaine with this design proposal.
I didn't realize
Just to
that.
clarify, because those are the last words you're saying. We have
Yes,
multiple
yeah,
residents
yeah.
here. Just wanted to clarify on the point of order. Can I just get a quick confirmation from staff?
I thought the parking was being taken away, so thank you, Councilor Morales.
Through yes, Mayor Nuttall, Councilor Morales is correct. At this point, the parking will stay, and we're hoping that we would look at the kind of pre and post road diet speed data, and potentially when no parking extends further south into the new subdivision on the south side of Mapleview, then we would look at potentially doing no parking restrictions on the north side at that point. So it's a phased approach in terms of what we're looking at doing here.
Okay. I almost feel like I would ask for this piece to be referred back to staff because I misread that. I can't even speak to this again, so I can't.
You're the chair.
2 minutes, thank you, Madam Clerk. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Moved by myself, seconded, hopefully by you. That motion 25-G-113 of section 115. That's okay. I was like, do I trust the paper? Do I trust the computer? Last time I trusted the computer, I was wrong. 115 of section B of the second general committee report concerning Madeline Drive road diet be referred back to staff to explore options.
It's moved by Councilor Morales and seconded by Deputy Mayor Thompson. Motion 25G-115 of Section B of the second report of General Committee dated May 7th, 2025 concerning Madeline Drive road diet be referred back to staff to explore options. And if we have unanimous consent on this, we can do it this way. So all those in favor? Looks unanimous to me, so thank you. Thank you for the deputation.